brake system. In the following video, different locking systems, their activation and working mechanisms are described and explained in more detail. In general, there are 3 types of locking systems. A distinction is made between a wheel lock, a directional lock, or a total lock. Let's step into the details of every single one of them. The wheel lock. Wheel locks prevent the rotation of the wheel and do not lock the swivel head, but only the wheel. This often applies to smaller casters where either a swivel lock is not needed or not implementable in technical terms. In our internal article number system, casters with wheel lock can be easily identified by the 5 in the 4th position. The directional lock. The directional lock fixes the running direction of the caster and turns a swivel caster into a fixed caster, which can then only travel in one direction. This is extremely helpful with applications that tend to be heavier or bigger. Otherwise, the application would be hard to control. In our internal article number system, casters with directional lock function can be easily identified by the 1 in the 4th position. The total lock. The total locking device fixes the swivel bearing and the wheel at the same time. It needs a more elaborate design to ensure that both moving elements of the caster are locked at the same time. The brake lever is located either at the tail end or at the front end of the caster. They can be easily identified in the product code, as the 4th digit is a 7 or a 2. Heavy-duty casters tend to have the lock at the front and not the tail end of the caster, as heavy loads are often pulled by a separate machine. Installing them at the front avoids walking around the application to engage the locks. For many institutional and industrial casters, the lock is located at the tail end of the caster, as most applications here are rather pushed than pulled. There are 2 different ways to activate the different locking systems. You can use the individual lock or the central locking system. Individual locking. In the case of individual locking, each caster must be locked individually. So, if you have a device with 2 casters with a locking function, first you need to lock one and then the other. If you want to unlock the casters, you also need to do it one by one. Central locking. In contrast to individual locking, a centralized locking system locks several casters at the same time. It is connected to at least 2 casters and can also act directly on all casters. They can either be completely free or be switched to a directional or total lock. With central locking, you can be sure to always reach the lever no matter in which position the casters are. If a device, however, is equipped with an individual locking mechanism, it may be the case that the actuating elements are located underneath the device and cannot be reached. Central locking can be done in a mechanical or electric way. Mechanical systems are operated by foot, and electronic systems by hand through the push of a button, which is a great ergonomic benefit. Central locking is also useful when effective operation is a priority and the equipment must be moved and locked repeatedly. When deciding between central or individual locking, please keep in mind that central locking needs more installation space and cannot be retrofitted. Individual locking is more cost-effective and needs less maintenance than central locking. No matter if central or individual locking is used, we distinguish between 2 working mechanisms, the friction and the form lock. The friction lock. The friction lock needs a defined force to achieve the demanded locking force. A friction lock is recommended when little play and maximum stability are needed. Even in the event of misuse, the braking force is maintained. The form lock. With form locking, the locking is realized by interlocking two parts, positive and negative form. The advantage of a form lock is the low shifting force. Easy and quiet shifting can be realized. Compared to the friction locking, more components are needed and the assembly is more complex. Now that we had a look at the different locking systems, the possibilities to activate them and the working mechanisms, you can see the variety of options you have. Brakes have many facets and can be technically demanding. Thank you for watching.